So I get a migraine, and I'd lose my focal vision. So there's two kinds of visions. There's the focal vision, which is what you're looking at in the periphery, which is everything around. And my focal vision disappeared, and I was like, what the heck is going on? This was happening to me in elementary school. It happened a few times. And I would get disoriented, and I would be taken to the office, I would lie down, and I would go to sleep. I'd go to sleep for exactly 30 minutes, and this happened every single time, exactly 30 minutes. I'd wake up, run to the bathroom, throw up, and then I was fine. And I felt so great after throwing up. Like, it was, oh man, it was much better than before I started getting these things. So that happened about 6 or 7 times, and none of the teachers had it. You know, they had no clue what was going on. I had no clue what was going on. I went to the doctors, they had no clue what was going on. So we just left it at that. That's usually what happens in the medical field. If you don't know what happens, you just generally leave it. It's not the best thing to do, but people do that all the time. So it happened to me a few times in high school. Not a lot of people know about this because it didn't actually happen in class, like what was happening in elementary school. But it became more pronounced as it went on. So now these symptoms, and I've started having some of these physical symptoms along with many other things, started more dramatically. They started around 2003, yeah, late high school. They started becoming more pronounced. And in my 4th year of undergraduate work, I had an extremely bad migraine. Mind you, I was volunteering at a children's hospital. I was playing video games with one of the kids, and we were having a great time. Now, you could play video games for a certain period of time until your head hurts. Now, being a kid playing video games when I was little, like, I had no problems with playing games for a long time, but after about 25 to 30 minutes, I started to lose my focal vision again, and I was like, uh-oh, it's gonna happen again. So I left the child's room and I had to go to the lounge, and I sat there realizing that my body was starting to shake. Now, it was kind of like strange. First of all, when your body shakes, you think you're cold or you're shivering or have a fever. But my body started to shake, and I started to... things started to blur around me, and I started losing feeling in the right side of my arm. And people came to me and said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm not okay." I thought I was low in blood sugar, so I had juice, nothing helped. So then I had one of the volunteers help me down to the ER. We had to stop a few times on the way because I had to move so slow, because every time I moved, my head was going wah, wah, and it wanted me to throw up. And it was really bad. And I sat in the ER for about 1 hour, and I called my parents. My dad was freaking out. So when I got into the ER, I laid on one of the beds there for about 20 minutes, and I fell asleep. I don't remember what happened during that sleep, but when I woke up, I said, "I'm going to throw up right now." And right after I finished the word "right now," I threw up, and it was extremely violent. It was violent vomiting. And people are like, "What the heck is wrong with this kid?" So then the doctor comes, "Let's examine you," looks around. "You're fine, you're perfectly fine." It's like, okay, sure. So on the way home, on the ride home, it started happening to me again. So when I got home, I threw up very violently, and it disappeared. So I said, you know what, this was a one-time thing, it's never going to happen again. I don't know what it was all about, physicians don't know, so let's just leave it at that. I still didn't get it. So sure enough, when I finished my master's, October 15th, 2009, this is 2 weeks after I finished, stress-free, I'm going to have a relaxed, great old time. Thanksgiving dinner, I'm sitting there, I take a look at my cousin to my right, started to lose my focal vision again. Things started spinning around me, and I was like, whoa. Now I had some of those things happen while I was doing my master's. All of a sudden I moved my head to one side, and it was like slight vertigo. I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. So I went to the doctor, they prescribed me drugs. I popped the drugs for about 3 to 4 days, and it disappeared. So I was like, okay, this will disappear. I popped the drugs, nothing. So it got worse and worse and worse, and I went to physician after physician. They said, here's some drugs, we have no clue what's going on with you, but maybe after some antibiotics or some antivirals, you'll be fine. Sure enough, nothing worked. Ear, nose, and throat specialist, ER doctors, clinic doctors. I went to see, even a psychologist I went to see, and a neurologist, scans up the wazoo, tests up the wazoo. Nothing is wrong with me. They're like, you're fine, you know, stop making this up. At one point, the neurologist was like looking at me and said, are you making this up? Yeah, so it was kind of, like to me, I was, at that point I just wanted relief. Now during that time, it was so disturbing, it was so bad that I couldn't, the only way I can get relief was lying down and looking at one point on the wall. I couldn't move my eyes because I'd start going crazy. I couldn't get up. Anything I tried to do, you know, all of a sudden a new appreciation for everything. Lifting a fork to your mouth, chewing, brushing your teeth, anything to do with slight movements was like absolutely bad. So I remember the first time that I started having these, we call it behind, not out-of-body experiences, but behind-body experiences. I was walking down the stairs at my house, and then I started having these flashes of being behind my body, and I could see the back of my body, and I was like, oh, okay. Every time that would happen, it'd be extremely relieving. So this started happening towards the end. I started having these experiences, and I was all relaxed during that time. And slowly, I started coming back to normal. My balance never returned to normal. It got back to about 95%. But during that entire period, I was completely incapacitated. I couldn't do any exercise, which for me was was bad. I could barely go 6 hours without doing some kind of exercise. So I was very, my entire life was put on hold, so to speak. Now, because I was finished my master's, it happened at the opportune time. Exactly when I was finished all my work and relaxed, and that's when it happened. So it didn't really, have a huge impact on my life, which I'm extremely grateful for, and I'm extremely grateful for the people who helped me out. That being my parents, obviously, and my support group around me. And that was key. It helped get me through as well. But since that time, I started remembering every single dream that I've had, every single night. And normally when you have a dream, it's like a series of dreams. One goes into another, all of a sudden goes into another. Well, I remember every single one of them. And some of the dreams have been, like, strange, so to speak. So I've met all these different kinds of beings, some of them tall, some of them short. Okay, so now, although a great deal of these, the dreams were perspective altering, I would say the most significant and the most recent one actually happened on June the 1st, 2010. It was a stormy night, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night, and I was flustered. I was flustered in the sense that I was awake because I wanted to go back to sleep, but I knew that there was beings around me. So I was facing the wall, so I couldn't really see them, but I felt them. And there was two of them. There was one female, and there was one androgynous, let's call it that. And I decided I want to get out of my body. So I remember it took a lot of effort, but I put a lot of effort into it, and I got out of my body. I just stepped out, and it was essentially like I'm speaking to you right now. It was a real experience, like physical experience. So I got up, and one of the beings was holding her hand out. So I took her hand, we got up, her hand was really cold. It had 3 long fingers and like 1 shorter finger, you could say that. And very caring, very loving being, relaxed. She had brown hair, I remember. I couldn't remember her face, but she was very small mouth, I remember. And she spoke to me, one of the few beings that actually physically spoke. But when they speak to you, they also speak through your mind, through thought to thought. So I took her hand, we got up, and the little being, because I realized who the other one was, a little brown guy, very wrinkly, but also very caring. Apparently, I've heard of some of these beings coming to people just to relax them. They're like the bedside manner beings, if you want to call them that, the nurse beings. But he was there, and he gave me a big hug, and then I took the being's hand, and we took off through the window.